Have you ever wondered why your growth has stopped and how to rebuild it? We're going to talk about that next on the Ecommerce Revamped Podcast.
Welcome to Ecommerce Revamped, where we break down the hottest trends, insider tips, and strategies shaping the future of e-commerce. Powered by Miva, the engine behind seamless online stores. Now here's your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ecommerce Revamped. We got a good one today. Of course, we have a good one every time. I got these great people that come on and share all this amazing information with us. So we're going to have Brian Jefferson of Wild Horses 4x4 come in just a second. We're going to be talking about the 3 Ps. I'm not sure what 3 Ps are, but we're going to talk about the 3 Ps that stop growth and how to rebuild them. So let's bring Brian in. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Doing good. About yourself, Rob?
Doing great. I didn't get a chance to ask you what the 3 Ps are before the show, which is great because I'd rather learn them as everybody else learns them. So Brian, why don't you kick us off with what are the 3 Ps and, what do they have to do with growth stopping and kind of rebuilding it again or getting it going again?
Yeah, so our 3 Ps are platforms, processes, and people. And so what we identified to help us in our growth was to actually rebuild the way that we use our platforms, the way we use our processes, and the way that the people are actually using them. And the biggest platform that we really had to take a look at was our ERP, which is it's multi-order manager. And that processes all of our orders, that processes our inventory, that helps us with returns. It's basically how we run pretty much everything. We also took a look at our e-commerce platform. Won't give their name because we switched from them into Miva. Their platform was built heavily on JavaScript. It really hurt us towards the last 2 years of us being on the platform with our SEO, with our rankings, and then again, how they presented the data, the structured data into Google. So it kind of hurt our organic as well. Again, our processes, being a 35-year-old company, the processes that we used 5, 15, 20 years ago were great for that time, but they didn't evolve with the platforms that we were using. So we were using a lot of manual, a lot of only one person understands how to run this particular process. So when that person's out for the day, we had to try to find a workaround or someone else that kind of knew the process. And then our people, they had habits to which, again, one person would run a process this way, another person would run a process their way. And when one person wouldn't do it the exact way, it would kind of throw a stop in the gears moving forward. And so we were able to identify the 3 Ps that kind of stopped the growth. And a great thing that I was able to do was to identify those, find solutions for them, and then implement those solutions and then get actual measurable growth to see how they affected the business overall, how they affected the people overall, and then at the end of the day, what type of growth were we able to measure by identifying those 3 Ps.
Great 3 Ps. Use those exact same ones when I was running my own company. Love how you broke those down. Paying attention to process. For instance, I had a shipping guy who would ship it one way, and then when he was out, I took over doing the shipping just because I needed to get it done for the day while he was out. And as I'm doing our own shipping, right, shipping out probably a couple hundred orders a day, I noticed I was like, wow, this process is broken. Like he would have to run across the room to get our most popular item that sold. And I'm like, why don't we move that product closer to the shipping so the guy doesn't have to run across the room 20 times to pick up that product to put it in a box and ship it, right? So I love how you broke that down. And, and that falls into people too, right? Like changing the process, helping people understand that process that worked for you. I love it. And platform, of course, me, I'm a big Miva guy myself for 15 years. So absolutely loved you guys came over to Miva and you've been with us a long time. One of the things that I always saw and I hear a lot about is pricing. Maybe it's a 4th P, but as far as pricing is concerned, you hear some people talk about raising prices to give the value. Some are lowering prices to make sure, if you're liquidating something that's going out of stock, you're not carrying anymore. What pricing habits have you guys kind of dealt with when it comes to that sort of scenario of, raising them or lowering them, and how has that affected you?
So our biggest pain point was we have multiple sources of pricing instead of having just one source of truth. When you have one source of truth of your prices being set, whether you have a catalog like we do, we have a 120-page catalog. We have 3,000 to 4,000 SKUs online. We also have our over-the-phone orders, which is a pretty good chunk of business. So those prices come from our ERP. Our biggest pain point is the three prices at some point will never match because they're not all intertwined and connected, giving just one source of truth. And so when we did a brand new catalog this year, we had to sit down at the table and say, we need to, sorry, camera. We need to identify where our source of truth is with our pricing and make those prices, number one, match across the board so that we can offer the customer a seamless price if they're ordering online, if they're ordering through the catalog, or if they're ordering over the phone. We needed to identify how could we bring that price to match for the customer. And then once we were able to do that, we had to look at industry standards, what are the competitors offering, our margins, are we able to match, can we exceed, can we beat? And at the end of the day, what can we offer our customer that's going to help them keep their Bronco on the road? We always try to make sure that we could offer our customers the best price for the Bronco, because the Bronco, again, the community is a really special, close-knit community of, good, hardworking people that choose us to spend their dollars with. And so we want to make sure we give them the best value for their money. And so we try to keep, again, the source of truth so that we have a solid price across all offerings for customers, and then that we're offering our customers the best price, but at the same time being profitable to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's building that community, seeing where that price point is that's still competitive, but yet you guys have to stay in business. So I think that's a great answer. I missed a question, unfortunately, when we were talking more about the three Ps. I'm going to loop back around to it a little bit. Could you maybe just go over a little bit when did you realize things had changed? You gave these great three Ps, but when did you kind of notice that, hey, we needed to make these changes, whether it was regarding all of the three of the Ps? Were they at the same time or were they at different times? So kind of give us a little information on, what were the signs when you had to make changes when it came to those three Ps?
So our most important or the greatest change that we needed was definitely our website. Our e-com website that we were using before was number one, it wasn't very secure. I got a phone call from our bank saying that we had a bunch of fraudulent charges coming through our website. Long story short, the website was compromised. Didn't find out it was compromised through the website. We had to find it through the bank. And then that set off a trigger of alarms where we actually looked into the different coding, different way that their platform was set up and how they weren't advancing with technology. We would want to make changes to our website, but we would have to code it. If we wanted to add a new homepage graphic, we would have to code in the graphic. And so these signs became even more evident as technology evolved. And then you see platforms like Miva and others where there's codeless, where there's templates. You can easily take your graphic and you can drop it in and you're done without any coding. And so those signs were major for us when we begin to see that there's bigger and there's better, but there's also easier. There's less time and labor for us. So we were able to begin the process to switch out our e-com. And so one of our biggest processes and platforms was actually switching from our past e-com into Miva. And a plug for Miva, when we switched over to Miva, it was pretty much a game changer for us because we were able to cut down on the amount of administration time used to get our products listed, to get the prices, to get their SEOs, their structured data, their JSONs, their Javas, all of that serving into the search engine so that our products can begin to serve better. And we can see that growth on the e-com side.
Yeah, one of the things, Brian, I'm glad you brought this up with a change to Miva. And this isn't just one big plug for Miva, because really we want entrepreneurs to really understand what's going on, especially e-commerce ones. One of the things I hear a lot when I'm out at different industry events is they're like, oh, I'm afraid to change because I feel like my sales will slow down, the momentum of the company will slow down. Could you address that a little bit on what did you guys see when it came to the momentum of sales through the website or through the phone, whatever it was, like sales in general? Those slowed down when you switched over from a different platform to Miva?
So because I was able to keep a lot hands-on and actually work with the integration and the switch, whenever you, sorry if I get a little technical, but whenever you move platforms, your URLs, your links, they're switching. And so Google will see that even with the 301 redirects, you're going to take a hit to your organic SEO because you're replatforming. And so what we saw was about a month or two, our website clicks, the conversions didn't take a huge hit, but the clicks and the actual traffic to the website did take a dive, but it rebuilt and it ramped up a lot higher to, I can't give exact numbers, but we did see a huge increase to get back to where we were before. And the last 2 months, we've been looking at the data as far as growth in traffic. Our organic is far outpacing our paid because of our structured data, because of our complete SEO push. And so now through Miva, we're actually able to give, another technical term is JSONs, we're actually able to break it down completely and have full control over all of the data that we serve to Google, all the data that we serve to all the AI models now. With a lot of the AI models looking for the JSON coding, we're able to serve that to them and have a full control over it, which allows our organic to go higher, which allows our paid to complement the organic. And so since we did do a switch over from our old platform into Miva, we have all of our coding, we have all our security, we have a better platform that Google can see, can trust, and allow us to do it. So yeah, switching over to a new platform, there is a drawback, but once you're done and you complete and you have it set the way it should be, you're going to see a lot higher growth in your traffic as well as your sales because our AOV also increased as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great. Well explained. And, you got to understand, if you're in e-commerce and you're selling online, you got to understand some of these terms that Brian is talking about. And if you don't, you should definitely go look them up, because these are standard terms that are used in the industry, especially when it comes to running a platform. I don't care if you're on a plug and play easy platform, which Miva is also, but you got to understand kind of what's going on. And that brought up kind of a good point. You were talking a bit about the change going on. And I'd like you, after we're going to take a quick commercial break, but after we come back, I'd love you to talk a bit more about what was the hardest part about replacing that older system. What kind of issues or things did you run into when it came to replacing that platform, or even a process, if you want to talk about that? We're going to do that right after this commercial break.
Ready to revamp your online store? Miva's e-commerce platform offers powerful tools and flexible solutions that grow with your business. From design to checkout, Miva has you covered. Don't just sell, stand out. Check out miva.com/podcast to start building your dream store today.
Hey, everyone. So yeah, head on over to miva.com/podcast. Got some good resources over there. You can check out older episodes of the podcast and some of the other stuff we've been doing. Listen, I'm on with Brian Jefferson of Wild Horses 4x4, and we're talking today about the 3 Ps that stop growth and how to rebuild them. We've talked about the 3 Ps. If you haven't heard them or you're coming in late, go back and check those out. But one of the things I wanted Brian to talk a little bit about when he was transitioning platforms, or his company was transitioning platforms, and what were some of the obstacles or things you ran into when transitioning? We just talked a little bit about performance as far as people hitting the site. He took a little bit of a nosedive for the first couple of months, but it came back, and it came back strong. Especially, it sounded like organic came back in force. Brian, what other kind of issues did you run into when transitioning platforms, or maybe getting the process along for people to understand, because going from a different platform to Miva can be a little bit of a change for your employees also. So maybe tell us a little bit about some other obstacles you ran into.
Yeah, so there's two, internal, external. I'll start with the external, the customer facing, is migrating the data. And so when you're mapping our previous data into Mivas, you use a lot of Excel to export SKU numbers, prices, dimensions, because again, e-com, your shipping modules need to know dimensions and weights. You're doing all of your custom fields, if you have certain words and terminology that you use. Taking that raw data and then mapping that into Miva on thousands by thousands is one of the harder things to do, because you have to make sure that each field is mapped accordingly. Case in point, I mapped our short descriptions I mapped our long descriptions to our short descriptions. And the short descriptions, when you click onto our website, any product, the short descriptions basically should be about 100 to 165 characters. They're about 1,000 characters because it's breaking down every single part. It pushed everything on the page all the way down to probably about 5 or 6 scrolls. And so I had to go back and unfortunately delete the entire import and then switch short and long. And so going through in the beginning stages, it takes weeks to months to make sure your data is mapped out correctly, because when you're doing it, if you do it the wrong way, you have to pretty much go back and find the change, fix the change. And so one of the longer tasks, but it's definitely worth it, is when you're actually exporting your raw data from one platform and then bringing it into the next platform, you have to make sure that you're going over it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that every data is mapped accordingly and correctly. Because when you import, you can do it right the first time and be done, and then not to worry. Or if you shortchange it, then you will spend more time going back into that. The other thing is your 301 redirects. Huge. If you don't do your 301 redirects, it's going to tank your Google and all your history. We've been on the platform for I think 15 years, and all of that Google history for that one URL, if we didn't do our 301 redirects correctly, was wiped out. And then that could essentially kill all the momentum you've ever had with Google being on the search engines, because you didn't do your 301s correctly. A 301 redirect is if you had a coffee cup, wildhorsesforage4.com/coffee cup. Well, your new website is /products.coffeecup. And so if you don't do your 301 to direct the coffee cup to product.coffeecup, all of that information is gone. And so we spent a pretty good amount of time going through every single URL that we had and make sure the 301 redirect was correct. And so that process was long, but it benefited us again because we saw the traffic come back, because we didn't lose any of the Google history. Internally with our staff, it wasn't so much a pain point. It was just, this is a newer system. There's no more coding. You can plug and play. You can drop a graphic here. You can jump into the website, the admin, and you can change a price. You can change a description without any coding. And so for them, it was awesome because there was no more coding.
Absolutely. Man, you just answered most of my question I was going to ask. I was going to talk to you a little bit about, what would you do different? But it sounds like maybe some of the redirects, having those maybe ready ahead of time might have helped you guys out. It sounds like your process were already in place, or a little bit of a education for the employees. But, let me back up just slightly. What made you choose Miva over other platforms? Was it the no coding, or was there other things involved? Let's hear it.
And so I did it, I want to say about 3 years ago, I started the process of looking for a new e-com website. And we did discoveries with NetSuite, an entire ERP plus a website. We did discoveries with Shopify. We did discoveries with a couple of other platforms, and they didn't match with our ERP. they weren't able to integrate with our ERP. And oddly enough, Miva had a native integration with our ERP, which was already a leg up. And then I was able to sit down with, at the time, one of our sales reps and play with the actual platform. So I was able to go into Miva, see what it looks like to add a product, see what it looks like to modify, to do some different settings, and just have my own sandbox to see how it would look and feel and work with us. And oddly enough, our UPS rep again came in and sat down and said, hey, we have a great partnership with Miva. If you were to go with them, because you guys have a great account with us, we could have a three-way partnership to where your shipping with us could also be an advantage with Miva. And so you bring into account that there was a native connection with our ERP, the flexibility, the ease of use with Miva security, not having to worry about the site being compromised again, losing customer data. And then the partnership with UPS made it a pretty much no-brainer for us to go with Miva. And then also we had a pretty great discovery. The technical team was able to get on a phone call with them and our team and go through all the in and outs, just the entire process between Miva's discovery versus the Shopify's discovery versus a NetSuite. It made it really seamless. And at the end of the day, it was a great solution for us. So we pulled the trigger.
Absolutely. So talking about the 3 Ps, people, process, platform, that's the 3 Ps we've been talking about. I'd like to talk a little bit, like I remember, I'm running the company. I'd make a lot of changes, whether it's software or, hey, we're going to use this for our accounting, things like that. And it's like, this team behind me, I'm making all these decisions and the team's going, okay, I guess we got to learn this. Okay, I guess we got to do this process now. What did it take to kind of align the team to these changes you're making, whether it was the process or the platform you were changing or any changes you're kind of making at the company? What did you kind of have to do to rally everybody behind you with these changes? Was there a lot of training involved? Help us a little bit with how you handled that.
The first thing you need to do is get your executive leadership on board. And so I talked with our president, CEO, and I laid out the vision and then the why we need to be here and make these different moves, saying, times are changing, the world's changing, the tech scope is changing. And so we need to evolve with it. And it could also, show benefits to our company. And it was awesome, have great executive leadership. They were on board. Once they were on board, I tasked myself first with learning the ins and outs of every system that I wanted to integrate and bring into the building. So first was Miva. So I had to take myself through a Miva course, learning every question that could possibly be presented, what our sales guys could ask, what the office staff would ask, what our shippers, what our marketing guys would ask. And so it took me about 2.5 months to learn all of Miva, from a granular, not really granular, but from kind of a mid level to where I could answer questions without having to jump on an email or a help session with our account rep. And so I learned the processes, and when I was getting ready to roll out each one, I was able to talk specifically to each department's pain points and how Miva could help them. I could talk to our sales guys on how it would make them easier to help a customer over the phone by having, the different advantages Miva would have. I was able to talk to the office staff on gift certificates, how they could use gift certificates, or, we now have buy now, pay later with PayPal, how they can process those. I was able to talk to the shipping department, the marketing department. I was able to translate it there to speak to them directly so that they could understand why we're moving to these platforms. And then once we rolled out each platform with our sales guys, when we went live, I was down on the sales floor for 1.5 days, listening, working there. If they, man, right there, hey, what's up? What's happening? What's going on? What can you see? What's the problem? So that I can actually stop the pain from spreading and then figure out this is a real issue or is this a training issue? Is this something that needs to be redeveloped, or can I just retrain them on how to do a certain task? And so for me, I had to learn the different processes. That way I could actually answer the questions and then figure out how we can continue to grow. And so this was a good 2-year process to where we changed our website. We also took our ERP to the cloud, and then we also integrated using ShipStation instead of our 4 native platforms, UPS, US Mail, GSO, and other shipping platforms that we used. So I had to learn each platform so that I could actually be there with them, to feel the heartache, the pain, and then to ease that because I knew the answers already, but also if it was a legitimate problem with the software that I can actually get hands on and get it fixed.
I love that. You need to do a whole white paper on how to change when changes are happening at a company. Here's how you do it. That was a perfect example of really going and learning, understanding the pain points that other departments are going to have, educating yourself on the fixes for those or how to solve those, and then going to each department and asking them and say, here's the solution. I love that. As an entrepreneur and, person who sold online for 20 plus years, that definitely was always a pain point. Anytime I was trying to change something in the company was, how can I transition this? What are they going to see? What kind of problems are they going to run into? Love how you put that. You should definitely write a blog article on or something about that. So great answer, Brian. Listen, I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about Wild Horses 4x4, how you guys got started, what do you guys sell? What do you guys do? And educate everybody on Wild Horses 4x4 here.
Yeah, so we sell Ford Bronco parts. We've started 37 or 38 years ago. Our president and CEO started off in a garage, has a love for Broncos, bought a Bronco, parted it out in the back of his studio, drove down to, I want to say, San Francisco, bought a couple more, brought them back home, started selling parts online, got into Craigslist, eBay, moved into another garage, moved into our old facility in Stockton, and then we moved here to our newer facility, 38, 40 employees now, doing a pretty good bit of sales. But we serve the Bronco community. So if you're an owner of a 66, 77 Ford Bronco, we have pretty much everything you need. If you have a 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 Bronco, we have parts for that as well. We live, eat, breathe, talk Ford Bronco. That's all we do. No Chevys, Jeeps, GMCs. It's just Ford Bronco, that year specific. That's what we love. That's what we do.
Very cool. Can't blame him. I mean, I'm a Ford Mustang guy, 66 Mustang I had back in the day. Actually, when I met my wife, she was a passenger in her friend's car in a Bronco, actually. So, and I'm originally from the Bay Area, so a big shout out to the Bay Area. So, nice. Yeah, absolutely love the information. Go check out Wild Horses 4x4. So, Brian, why don't you plug the website and tell everybody how they can reach out. So, if they're interested in maybe asking you a question, or maybe maybe they have a Ford Bronco and want to check out the website. Tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, so it's wildhorses4x4.com. If you want to reach me, it's just Brian at wildhorses4x4.com. If you have any questions as far as the Bronco, where to get it, how to get it, if you want to remodel it, restore it, we love going off-roading. If you check out any of our social, you'll see we're heavy off-roaders on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're pretty much anywhere you can think of. Come check us out. We love to talk. I love to talk. If you have any questions on the processes that we've done, we use ShipStation shipping. It's an awesome product. We love it. It's helped us tremendously to scale our actual entire shipping operation and growth. So if you have any questions on what we're doing there, feel free to call or shoot me an email.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, it's Wild Horses with an S on the end, HORSES, 4, and then the letter X4.com. So wildhorses4x4.com. And then Brian is this Brian, to reach out to Brian via email, it's Brian at wildhorses4x4.com. So Brian, pleasure having you on. Absolutely great to hear your story. Love the 3 Ps and how you guys executed them. It was absolutely flawless in the way that you described it. And it sounds like the way you did it probably wasn't as easy as you're describing it, but it was great the way you gave everybody a great education session here on basically how to do that when transitioning into, either whether it's a different platform or even a piece of software, that you're going to run into these issues and 3P type issues. And I say 3P, not the 3 P's that we just talked about. So Brian, thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on and helping out other, e-commerce sellers on what they can do when they're looking to transition with software or anything like that. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you all on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Ecommerce Revamped. Ready to take your e-commerce business to the next level? Visit Miva.com for the tools to build seamless online stores and unforgettable customer experiences. Until next time, keep your carts full and your customers happy.